welcome to our technique video for joining the circles in the Magic Circles blanket. Before I continue, I want to make it clear that you will need the pattern to make use of this video. This video is not in any way intended to replace the pattern. I shan't be going through stitch numbers, stitch counts or things like that, and I will not be going through stitch by stitch. We've got a couple of stumbling points that people write to us about, so we're mainly going to focus on those. So if you haven't got your pattern yet, I've put a link in the information below so you can get to have a look at that there and get it in whatever format works best for you. So I've got a sample piece here where I've joined 4 small circles and 1 large circle, and this has not got the surface crochet completed yet. This is purely and simply just the joined, sort of the raw joined look, if you like. And I'm going to show you, I've got some small and a large circle here. I'm going to show you to this kind of stage, okay, because joining in the half circles and the corners for the edging works in the same way as this center point. So once you're kind of at this stage, you'll have everything that you can possibly need to finish off your blanket. Right, so our joining method is a join as you go method, okay? And what that means is you complete your next round and you interrupt the completion of it, if you like, by joining to the other motifs of the blanket. Now, with that technique, you always start, your very first motif has nothing to join to. This is your starting point, so there's nothing available for it to join to. And what that means is you will make the joining round in its entirety. You don't interrupt it at all. You make it from start to finish and fasten off, and then you start joining from the next one onwards. So, as mentioned, I'm not going to go through stitch by stitch, but there's a little bit at the beginning of the joining round that we get some questions about, so I will show you when we get to that point. Okay, off we go then. I'm actually using just a pale green to show you here because it works, it shows up nicely on the video. So my joining colour is going to be this green, and I'll work in that throughout. So I've started off round 3, and this is, like I said, the first motif, so there's no join happening here. It's just a straight round motif, or sorry, a straight round 3. And I've just completed the chain part for the first part of the pattern repeat, if you like. So just after the asterisk, I've completed my chains, and working back along the chain has raised a few eyebrows. So I'm just going to show you that. It's really straightforward. If you imagine when you start a blanket or a piece in crochet with a starting chain, and you then go back and work into that chain, that's all that's happening here, but it's just within a round. So I'm getting ready to do my trebles. I'm missing the first 3 chain, okay, and I'm working into the chain for the trebles, all right, because you can see I've just gone into the chain and I'm making my stitches into it. So just as I said, imagine that is a standalone chain and you're working into it at the beginning of a project. That's all that's happening here. So nothing at all that you're probably not already familiar with, I would suggest. So that is the little stumbling point, the beginning stumbling point, if you like, that we get questions about, and it is that straightforward. So you're just working it as if it was the starting point of a project. All right, working back down the chain. So that is that. I'm going to now go round and finish this round following the pattern, because they're all stitches you're familiar with, and I think that's really the only complicated part of that. So let me get to the end of our first completed motif. Okay, there is our completed motif number 1. That's with round 3 complete. And if I just get my little sample piece here, you'll see where that fits. It fits over any of the corners there. That's where it's sort of where its place in the structure is. All right, now so now we've done that, and again I'll use this as an example. If that's sitting there like that, we've now got to make this second corner down here and join, and the join is going to happen at the edge of this spoke. So I'll show you what we do next. Right, we are on page 8 of our pattern, and we are now working the piece that says join. This is the piece that says no join, and we're now working the piece that says join. And you'll notice in your pattern there's a slight change to this round, and the slight change is only where we join. So this is only going to happen once. If we're only joining once, this is only going to happen once. And what we're doing is we're cutting down the number of chains we make to start with. So we've got 3 chains that we've made here, and our join is going to happen, I'll bring this up to the camera, our join is going to happen into that chain that is at the edge of the spoke. And what that chain is if you remember, we worked back along our chains with some trebles. Do you remember I showed you that? And that little bit at the end is where the work has curved back on itself, and we're going to use that very cleverly to join our second circle too. So I will show you that. So I've got to the point indicated on the pattern, and this is going to be tricky to show you. It's going to be a lot easier for you because you're not going to be trying to hold it sort of uppermost, but I'm going to pick up my first motif. I'm going to make sure the yarn, the working yarn, is behind the 2. All right, and I'm going to just put my hook through the first chain, the first free chain, okay, at the end, at the edge of that curve. It's going to go all the way through to the back. I'm going to, see, it's a little bit tangly, isn't it? I'm going to pull through my yarn to the front, all right, and then complete the slip stitch. So it just goes through the loop already on the hook. Let me just stop there, just so you can see. It is joined already, albeit flimsily. We have made a join, okay? We're going to do that 2 more times. Nothing at all happening down here yet, all happening up here on motif number 1, and it's slip stitching, nothing more than that. So I've done 1 into the first chain, I'm going into the second chain in exactly the same way. So through, can be a bit tricky to see, but you'll be able to see it on your work. Through to the back, oh dear, picking up the yarn. I just make this look easy, don't I? Picking up the yarn and finishing the slip stitch. It's also easy for me to say. So that's number 2, and I'll do that again 1 more time, and then we'll be done, thankfully. So into the last chain, bring through to the front and slip stitch. Okay, so there it is on the desk, and you can see the chain's gone up. We've joined with our slip stitches across the edge of the spoke. All right, so we've not added any length or anything to that at all. It's joined along the edge of the spoke, and we're now going to come back down onto motif 2 to continue our round. We're not quite yet back at the regular pattern as it's been written for the no join motif, but we're very, very close. All we're going to do is work back down that chain, so back along the chain in the same sort of way as we started, with some trebles, and you can have a little look on the pattern for that. And as soon as we get those done, stalling for time. Once those are done, now we are back on track with our standard pattern. So it's now, we're now able to complete this just as we've completed the no join option. So I'll finish that, and then we'll have a look where we have to join more than once. All right, and I'll show you where we get just before we do that. Right, then here we go, where we've made 1 join. That's complete now. I've completed the rest of the round of this second motif, and if I again, let's get our little sample piece back, and this is where it sits on the structure. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to complete this one now, and you will note from that one there is still only a single join needed here, isn't there? There's just 1 join needed. All right, and then once that one's in place, this final piece is going to have 2 joins to make, top and bottom. So I'm going to get this third one joined, like I said, in exactly the same way as we've just joined this one to this one, and then we'll look at this the double join. Okie dokes, then here we are. We've got 3 motifs joined now, and you can start to see what's going to be happening in the center here. We're going to have space for our larger circle. We've got a 4th to join now, and you will see I'm going to join here and here to create this last corner, but I'm just going to turn it because obviously it's going to be easier for me to work sort of in that direction here. So I'm at the point with the 4th circle where we sort of started with the join round. Do you remember we sort of started off at the join round? We've got fewer chains ready to reach up. If I put my hook there, ready to reach up and do those slip stitches across the little edge, the curved edge of one of the spokes of the top right that I'm going to join to here. So I have another bash at doing those slip stitches a little more elegantly. So right along that edge, that slip stitch, we're going to slip stitch into that chain that makes the edge of the spoke. So I'm going into the first one. It's not any more elegant, is it already? And I'm going to pull the yarn through and create my slip stitch. So exactly the same as the first join, obviously, because we're joining a one-to-one here. Just one motif to one motif. It's a one-to-one join. All right, so second slip stitch into the chains, split the yarn, of course, do that again. Second slip stitch and third. Oops. Nope. There we go. All right, so we've done our one-to-one join. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come back down and work the next section of the join round onto circle number 4, and we'll see what that looks like. Okay, then I'm going to turn the whole thing and we'll do that last one-to-one join. Okay, so you can see from the slightly awkward angle here of the crochet hook that is sort of where I've finished up. I'll take that out now. I just want to illustrate to you sort of where we'd started with this 4th circle. So I've made my first join across here to the top right corner. I've worked back along and I've worked my pattern around, sort of around that first curve, if you like, of the circle. And I'm now at the point, if I was to follow my pattern on page 8, on looking at the join section, I'm now at the point where I can just create another join in the normal way. So this time, rather than doing our full number of chains, we're doing fewer chains, our 3 chain there, and we're ready to go across and make those slip stitches again. So it works in the same, it works in the same way, but you just need to sort of know when to pop back to the original no join pattern, or just pop in that little slight variation for the join pattern, and it should be quite straightforward because you sort of naturally end up in the right place. You know, you can clearly see that you need to join there, can't you, to kind of create this middle section. So we're going to try those, we're going to do those three slip stitches again into that edge. I'll just do those. You hear the tweeting birds? They're very noisy. It's lovely. It's a nice day. Right, last slip stitch. I'll just rest up there so you can see what's happening. You can clearly see now we're completely joined in this little structure. So I'm ready to finish off circle number 4, and we will have our completely joined 4 circles. We can have a look at the center point then. And there we are, 4 small circles joined together. We've got bits and bobs to finish this off. We've got some nice surface crochet to do, but you might choose to do that all in at the end. But just wanted to show you how to create the structure. And what you'll see is you've got this lovely center aperture in which to set your large circles. So I'm just going to very quickly give you some pointers on what to do there. Setting in the large circles is a bit of a joy really, because you've done all the hard work. The stitch number of the circle will match exactly the stitch number of the aperture. Isn't that brilliantly clever? So provided you've kind of kept your stitch counts accurate, you should be in for a nice easy time. So here's a couple of little tips. First of all, if you want to, got a few stitch markers here, you can easily use safety pins or anything really. If you want to, you can mark the center points between the join points between the motifs, and that will give you a good guide for your circle. So I'm just going to pop a little stitch marker in those join points, because they're going to count as a stitch. All right, they create the extra stitch you need to make the count correct. All right, so I've popped those in the 4 points, and I'm going to do the same on my circle. You don't have to, but if it helps you, why not? Basically, I'm just going to put stitch marker in equidistant. Very much love that. Is that even the word? I don't know if it's the word I need, but I'm just going to say it. Equidistant. 4 points around the circle, so bear with me on that. Okay, I've done the same on the circle, just to give me a reference point of where things need to line up and make sure I'm on the, you know, the right track with it. I've also found that it's really helpful to get me going, get me started with my double crochet that I'm going to be joining the circle in with, because we're working on the back of the work. We need the right sides of the crochet together. Okay, so the right side of the circle needs to be lining up with the right side of the framework, and that blew my mind a little bit, and I'll show you an easy way to work out where to start. So if I pick up my circle here and I turn it over, I've got a stitch marker sort of at the north point here, north, south, east, west, and I'm going to just line that up with a little stitch marker here on the framework. And if I put that there, it's a very small amount touching, but it is right side to right side, isn't it? Okay, right side to right side, which means I can work the wrong side into the wrong side of the circle all the way around and set it into its framework. Now, as you work, you will be working around in sort of this manner. All right, so you're working almost from the outside of the framework in. Let me show you how to get started, and once you're underway, it's really, really easy. Right, I've got my joining yarn. I'm just going to take the stitch marker out of the circle, because we're done with that for now, and join my yarn in with a loop and a chain. And I'm not going to count that as my first double crochet. I'm going back through, put my hook back through where I've just come out, and I'm putting it through where I've marked the midpoint, okay, on my framework, and I'm going through from front to back. Okay, from front to back. So I've gone through all all layers of fabric, if you like, or both layers of fabric, through the circle, through the framework. I'll pick up my yarn and complete my double crochet, and we're off. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the next stitch on the circle and the next stitch on the framework. And this is where it's a little tricky, because obviously you're working in the same colour, so it's not quite so easy to see on your framework. And I'm just double crocheting all the way around in a 1-for-1 stitch, so 1 stitch in each stitch all the way around. And as I said, provided you've paid attention to your stitch counts, you've got nothing to think about, no counting, nothing like that, except to make sure that you're only putting 1 double crochet into each stitch. That's all you need to do all the way around. So I'm going to make a little bit of progress and just show you what it looks like when you get some progress on it, because then you can see the direction and how you're sort of bending that circle round. Right, here we go. You can see I've made done a quarter of the work now, and it's all very interesting, this bit here. Do not panic. As long as you can do this, hang on, let me just take that out a bit. As long as you can fold that circle in, which you can, and you can see it's got this lovely finished structure now, you can sort of see what's happening, so it doesn't look anything like it's all going to line up. It's all a bit twisted and doesn't quite feel logical. It probably does to you. It could just be me, actually, to be fair, but you know, it's working. Don't overthink it, go with it and just work all the way around. So let me show you what it looks like when it's done. Here we go, the last few stitches now. It's always a lovely feeling, isn't it, when they work out. I'm usually taking a couple back, or trying to find one that's missing, but this one's worked beautifully. Okay, so I will finish that with a slip stitch into the first, I've just gone over that in there, into the first double crochet, snip, and then we've got moment of truth. I hope it works because I've cut the yarn now. And there we go. Gosh, I love this. Love, love, love. I've got a big old jam jar full of circles, and it's soon going to be joining time for me as well. So I'm really hoping that you are inspired to finish yours if you've got one to finish. So fantastically well engineered, like I said, creates a really nice perfect circle that's not pulled out of shape. None of these are pulled out of shape, and when we accentuate them with the surface crochet as well, they're just going to look pretty spectacular. So hope that's helped you work out how to join your magic circles.